Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd Podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Today on the podcast, we are on the topic for the month, which is movies that are grotesque or have grotesque things in it. Tonight's movie is the 2017 American film Alien Covenant from director Ridley Scott, starring Michael Fassbender, Catherine Watson, Billy Crudup, Daddy McBride, and Damien Bitcher.
Did you say Daddy McBride?
Danny McBride, yeah.
Okay. I thought you said Daddy McBride. I was like,
Nope.
okay, I didn't know you liked that actor that much, but okay.
He is my daddy. No. All right, and if you also don't know what Alien Covenant is about, then it takes place 11 years after Prometheus expedition on the colonization ship Covenant, which is 7 years from reaching its planet Origini 6 with 2,000 colonists in stasis when they receive a music radio broadcast and go to investigate on an ideal island. Let's talk about that movie, guys. What do you guys think about Alien Covenant? And what makes it grotesque to you, John? This is Crit's pick, right?
This is Crit's pick.
Yeah, that's my pick.
Crit, what would make grotesque to you?
Did you not watch the same movie I did?
I know, I'm just joking. I want to hear from your mouth. I want to hear what you... I did watch the movie.
I mean,
I've seen it many times. I own it.
It's Ridley Scott body horror. What's not to like?
No, without a doubt. I mean, you get the blend of the aliens. You get the blend of Dr. Elizabeth, whatever her name is. I can't remember from Covenant being gutted. You know, things like that. Which was a little grotesque. I mean,
the stuff coming
all
out
of his
back.
Oh yeah.
Well,
all of the aliens being disintegrated at the very beginning. What's up?
That scene when he's coming out of his back and then he like just collapses as dead weight. Like that scene
Backwards.
sticks with you for a while. Yeah. That scene just like sticks with you for a while. For sure.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Without a
But
doubt.
yeah.
There's
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to agree that it was just grotesque. You know, that's that whole, you know, anything to deal with any of that guy's experiments. And I'm spacing his name right now for some reason. The android,
David.
David. Any of his experiments are so much fun.
And I think my grotesque aspect of it for this film actually hinges more upon the act that David did when he arrived at the planet, when he basically killed the planet. You know, that whole flashback where it's him like, all right, we've arrived and let's drop the bombs on them. You know, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting like theme of like trying to understand your creator by becoming a creator, but then just having no moral compass on the process at all.
I don't know that
that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I dug into it that deep, but now that you mention it, yeah, I think that is a really good way of putting it. David's attempting to create, and he's attempting to be a creator, because I mean, and he's obsessed with that, as you can tell when he's interacting with Walter, you know, his alter ego there, when he's trying to get him to do the flute and you know, basically riff off of him. He's fascinated with that whole creation cycle, but like you said, no moral compass.
Yeah.
Or at least no moral compass that includes a benevolent standing towards biological life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say all biological life, you know, mostly.
Well, maybe. I mean, he's prioritizing the xenomorph biological life over other. He's
yeah, that's
like
true.
It's like he's choosing the potential over what is currently there. Just like the potential is more important to him than anything that's currently alive. Just because he wants to see whatever his definition of perfection is.
That's a great way to put it.
And I really like the direction that Prometheus and Covenant take with the creation of the xenomorphs and where they came from. and how they started. Like, I really appreciate this direction. I I like it. I don't know that I would say I like them more than the original Alien and Aliens, but
Do you
they're
think? Do you like
unique.
it? Do you like it with? I mean, 'cause some people will be like, "Well, it was better not knowing how the aliens were created." You know, the
I think these are
unknown.
two. I treat them as two different universes, two different sets. Like, yes, it's the same kind of story, but to me, it's like two different universes almost. Like, it's like, here's Ridley Scott's original, and here is his remastered universe type deal, or like a different way of things happening. I don't view them as happening in the same space. At least in my mind. And yes, it could be taking place a lot earlier, and yes, you can connect the two, but I've never treated them that way. I've never treated them as an interconnected saga. I've always treated them as like just completely
He was
separate thoughts.
he was gonna if there was a third movie, which most likely there's not gonna be. Um, he was gonna connect them in some way. That was the kind of the point of in his mind of I to get this was kind of the behind story getting to that first Alien movie and stuff. But I feel the same way. I kind of feel like in some ways it's I feel like it is the same universe, but it's definitely a different storyline. Is it Origin? Yeah, I think it's still Origin, and I don't have a problem with the Origin being David. You know, I'm okay with that. I wanted to eventually know how the aliens got to LV-421, you know, which are in Alien and Aliens, but you know, unfortunately,
Well,
we may never see that connection.
Alien is, it doesn't have like a very deep theme. It's kind of, at least to me, it's just kind of man versus nature type of
Yeah.
story.
I
Whereas
agree.
in with Prometheus and Covenant, they're reaching for more than that. They're talking about things like religion and creation and responsibility towards your creations, responsibility about what your creation is doing to the ecosystem. So like it's going for a richer meaning, but and so it's hard to compare that to the original Alien because you're like, okay, the original Alien is like a staple in sci-fi horror and executed it so well that
Yeah.
we're still
Oh yeah.
talking about it now, and we're still engaged in this universe that they created. And it's like, okay, what's the these next films, obviously they're much further along in our technology and our ability to create this in this medium, and then they wanted to tell a bigger story, a much bigger story than the original Alien. And I think that's I mean, what else would you expect them to do? You kind of don't expect them to
No.
walk backwards and make a small film again.
I think it's a laudable goal too, to want to achieve something that's bigger, and just what they're trying to grab in, like you mentioned, religion and hitting on that. I don't know how deep you guys have dived into the lore, but with Prometheus and the engineers, because is the engineers is what they call that alien race, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
I don't know how deep you've dived into that lore, but it was basically, in the first movie, they're on their way to kill their creation because they sent an engineer back, and humanity killed them. Killed them in a horrible way, and so they were on their way to wipe humanity off because, like you said, Crit, they have a responsibility to the universe as a whole to manage their creation, and if they've deemed that their creation in this case is self-destructive or destructive on a large scale, then they are taking steps to end that destruction.
Well, it's essentially equating, at least if you take that bent on it, it's essentially creating humanity to the xenomorphs from the point of view of the engineers.
Yeah, and I think and then take that another step into humanity being the engineers to the xenomorphs. Like, it's a like I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And I think you can spend some time just sitting and thinking on it, and I think that's an important distinction, like you were pointing out, between this film and the original Aliens.
Yeah. Well, and I think as far as like how the theming of specifically Covenant comes, it tries to, double down on David's like reasoning around, what he chose to do and stuff like that, and how he chose to go about it. And it's an interesting, like, I don't know, like a naive way of approaching it, in the sense of like, the only thing he's really valuing is the xenomorphs. It's basically not even the xenomorphs. It's the virus, or the nanovirus itself, and its transformation of an ecosystem, and, and then, yeah, it's just the ending of the movie is, thematically grotesque, because that's basically, uh, what- whatever,
The bad
however
guy
many.
wins. I mean,
Yeah, it's definitely the bad guy wins. Yeah.
which leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. I mean, I struggled with this movie the first time I
Oh
saw it.
no, I think it's a
I-
think it's a great choice.
I do
I
too.
love that choice.
Well, what I was gonna say is I usually always, am totally against that kind of a. I usually hate a movie that ends that way. And the first time it kind of went, oh, it's gonna go this way, okay, and I was like, I kind of questioned the choice. I guess maybe a little bitter about the choice, but on a couple of rewatches after it, I actually I've grown to actually enjoy the choice that was made. And the possibilities that kind of, could potentially be done with that, but
Yeah,
I've kind of warmed up to the bad guy wins type scenario movies.
well, because I won't say it's more realistic, because that's not really what it's going for. It's more along the lines of, it's a more interesting ending than a happy ending.
Mhm.
It just is, like, it just makes you think more after the movie about the implications of what you've just seen. Whereas in a happy ending, you go, "Oh, great," and then you just kind of move on with your life, And so, as a in a methodology to ending quote unquote ending a story, is leaving it open ended like that, in a sense of like a horrific or a grotesque open ending. I don't know. It's just more intellectually interesting, I guess. Maybe it's probably not emotionally cathartic, because you're not going to leave the theater thinking, well, that was a really great movie. You're going to leave the theater thinking, I can't believe the bad guy won. This just, yeah. So like, yeah, I like it for that aspect. It's kind of, it's a little bit rebellious, and I like that.
Not even that the bad guy won. He kind of won twice. If you look at Prometheus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This universe,
keeps
basically
winning.
David wins. Yeah. I mean, the weird part is like, this, I guess it depends on how strongly you connect this with like the AVP stuff and all the crossover things, right?
I pretend those don't exist.
Yeah, I mean,
I have an easier say the same thing.
But
I have an easier time separating. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to point out, because we talked about creation and all of that. I think is it that the creators are doomed to be overtaken and destroyed by what they've created? I mean, the engineers were destroyed by mankind. Technically, they were destroyed by David, but they were destroyed by mankind. And then David is destroying mankind, and so is David going to be in turn destroyed by his own creation?
Well, okay, so minor observation would be that the destruction we see of David, of that one city, of that one planet, essentially, is the implication. Those don't look exactly like the engineers. Like, they look similar, but they don't look
That's
exactly
true.
like. They're more shaped a little differently. So I'm almost feeling like they're a colonization of that planet
Mhm.
by engineers, maybe changed in some way or genetically engineered in some way. And so they're not the engineers, that they're like another proto-human or human equivalent adjacent invention by
Okay.
the engineers. So I'm not sure he's destroyed the engineers, as far as that goes.
Okay, I can be down with that. Like, I'm not.
You could see it as like those people were so advanced that you could see that them colonizing, like humans were many different planets, and that was just one of them. That was the
Yeah.
ship.
And,
That's where the ship came from, and that's where it went to.
yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's possible that there's some conversation around like the original Alien that the engineers were obviously obviously the engineer in that ship kind of um, retrospectively was killed by the xenomorphs essentially, right? Chest
Yes.
burster. So it's like, okay, in that case, you're kind of looking at a theme of um, your weapon of mass destruction essentially backfiring against your civilization. So a talk about nuclear weapons or bioweapons or whatever else like that, right? Like it's an easy equivalent to kind of look
Yeah.
at and go, okay, I can see how a truly advanced civilization could destroy itself by inventing something that they themselves can't escape from. And again, it's a theme of creation and the responsibility that the creator has towards its creation.
And I really appreciate the fact that we can dive into this with these films. I think that's where I think Ridley Scott should be commended for the ability to create that kind of discussion based on these newer films and based in his original universe. Because like you mentioned earlier, Alien and Aliens is man versus nature, and it's not trying to tell that bigger story, whereas Prometheus and Covenant are definitely telling that bigger story. And so I appreciate that we can have this discussion in the first place, or are having this discussion, because the
Yeah.
medium has generated those prompts.
Well, yeah, and the idea is that like Alien is definitely seems to me a man versus creation, but I think Aliens is more motherhood. Like its central theme is motherhood.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
true.
he's even said that. If you watch, there's a
Okay.
show on Netflix called "Movies That Made Us."
Mhm.
It just barely came out a couple weeks ago, and they go through aliens, and that is literally
Yeah,
James
it's
Cameron's take on that movie, because he's patterning it after his mother and grandmother, if I remember correctly, of how strong-willed they were and strong figures in his life.
yeah. I think the interesting thing is that the themes are stronger in Aliens than they are in Alien, just from that aspect of it. Even though one of them is definitely a horror action movie, and the other one's just a straight up horror movie,
Horror movie, yeah.
yeah. And so like that's interesting. And then you have Ridley Scott coming back and reprising many more than 2 decades later
Yep.
to reprise his approach to this thing by basically creating prequels to all of that setup. And in those prequels, they're ruminating on that creator creation, which is just a superset of motherhood aspect from Aliens. It's almost like he created Alien, Cameron came along, did Aliens with an interesting theme on top of it, and eventually kind of caused Scott to look at his and go, well, I can take this up one further. We can walk past motherhood and into like just general creation of new things, of new life, and talk about it from there.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's
I
and
can see
now that
that.
you explain it that way, I can see that definitely, because he definitely keeps the strong woman theme,
Mhm.
which was a part of I guess part of Ridley Scott's vision from the very beginning.
And Catherine
I
Waters did
did.
a pretty good job with that. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
she's not a
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, but I think she did a pretty dang good job.
I mean, Sigourney Weaver wasn't Sigourney Weaver in the first two.
No, she wasn't.
So
That's
it kind of
yeah,
made her anyway.
That's true.
Sigourney Weaver had only been in like one movie or something like that by the time Alien came around.
Yeah.
She was so new. Matter of fact, that they actually had to fight for her to be in the movie
Mm-hmm.
at all. But anyways, it's kind of interesting how that theme. Whenever I hear people can say there haven't been strong women out there in movies. It just makes me cringe, because this movie and this series of movies look, it might be on there's not as many. I'm going to say that definitely.
We say, yeah, quantity versus quality. The quality is pretty high, but the quantity isn't.
That's right. That's right. And, all of these movies, to have that be part of that quantity and to keep that theme has been, is an amazing thing, which I really, truly love about these movies. And I thought Catherine Waterston did a great job, just like the lady in Prometheus. I think she did a great job. I forget her name. She's the Norwegian
Mhm.
actress. She did a great job too. But from
Yeah,
Prometheus,
it was kind of a toss up between this and Prometheus because Prometheus has the birthing scene, which is obviously meant to
oh
be
yeah,
extreme body horror,
oh
and
yeah,
that one might be more grotesque than Covenant, but I enjoyed Covenant more than Prometheus just as a general film, and so I was like, let's watch Covenant. I haven't seen Covenant in a while, so that's why I put it on the
Yeah,
list instead of Prometheus.
that is a good point. I look back at it, and these are both just beautifully done movies.
Yeah.
I don't know, from a cinematography point of view, I really like Prometheus maybe a little bit more. Some of those shots at the very beginning of the planet when they first land and things like that, I think are just wonderfully done. But
Hmm.
I think the overall story, even though the cinematography in this one is still spot on, Ridley
Hmm.
Scott just is Ridley Scott. I mean, he's
His
he's an
whole crew.
amazing director. Yeah, and but I would say that I do find this movie more rewatchable than Prometheus, even though I still like Prometheus and go back and watch it from time to time.
Yeah,
Uh, th-
it's not that Prometheus isn't a good movie. It's just
no,
I like the story of this one a little better.
yeah, I like the deeper themes a little bit more, and it is deep, and maybe that's why it didn't do as good at the theater, because it is definitely a deeper thinking film of what's going on here, why is this happening. Um,
And
Sometimes that throws people off.
I think the marketing showed the xenomorph and it shouldn't have.
Well, I don't know if you heard that story behind that people kind of revolted a little bit against Prometheus about how it being an alien origin movie and it had very little alien in it.
I mean, it had
And
aliens, but it didn't have the xenomorph. Yeah.
exactly. And that was kind of Ridley Scott's answer in Covenant to those naysayers
Yeah,
a
and I
little
will
bit.
say that the chest burster rising up and doing a T pose with David was, I don't know, a little cringe. It didn't come across to me
yeah,
as majestic or interesting as I think the filmmakers wanted it to.
yeah. He posed to assert dominance. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that
exactly
was
what thought
weird.
that crossed my mind. I was like, really?
And the model was just like a skinny, slimmed down xenomorph, and I was like,
Yeah, like fully formed, slimmed down
yeah.
xenomorph. I'm like,
And
what the
I was like,
weird?
I don't know. I mean, I know how goofy in Alien the first puppet was, but it still was viscerally more interesting. And we didn't see it very long, which I think obviously helped and was an intention. But like that was way more interesting than what we got in this one for the actual chest burster. So I don't know. But that's just my take on it. I, don't- I It's a minor nitpick.
No, I think it's a valid nitpick though.
I appreciate getting to see what happens to someone's face when they try to cut one off and actually
Yeah.
try to
Oof.
succeed too. Like instead of just like, oh, it's got acid, let's stop. It's like, no, keep cutting, and it just burns his face off. It's like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
No, that's a great scene. That whole reveal and all that stuff, and them coming in to get him. That's one of the better scenes, and that's where you start to see the reveals of who David really is and what he's been up to.
And holy crap, can Fassbender act?
Yes, he is one of my all-time favorite actors. He can do such a good job. I mean, he's playing two different characters in here, and
Hmm.
and you can tell there's a distinction between them. Like he does a
Oh yeah,
fantastic job with that.
Oh, the flute scene where they move the camera back and forth, and like it's a whole
Yep.
new. We've had the same actor split twice before, but usually it's a static shot; it's not moving, and so like just the amount of effort they had to do for that was, it was a real flex. And then him just playing two, very much different characters, and which is, he's not the first one to do that. It's not like no one's ever done that before. He just pulled it off really well, and I enjoyed it.
Yep, I really enjoy him, and almost I don't necessarily really enjoy. I don't like him in the X-Men movies as much. I don't really care. I just don't care for those movies. But a lot of other things that he's done, the Snowman, Steve Jobs, like say what you will about the film, but Steve Jobs, he did. He was in the Assassin's Creed movie, which was garbage, but he did a really good job in it.
Well, I mean, I even liked him in First Class, X-Men First Class. I think his take
So
on
did I.
Magneto in First Class was really good. I think they
That's true.
overused that same theme multiple times in the next movies, and I was just like, okay, this isn't any different. But that's really on the writing. I don't think that's necessarily on him.
Yeah. Yep,
I would agree with that.
I agree with that.
But yeah, he did really good in First Class. I don't mind those movies. You know, I think towards the end of the X-Men movies with Fassbender in it, they got a little, they started to get a little bit thin on content, but I thought the first couple of those prequel movies were pretty good.
Yeah.
All
right.
Good actor. So,
Good actor.
and then it had another one of my favorite actors in there, Danny McBride, or as Josh said, Daddy McBride. So
Daddy McBride.
I really enjoy him in The Righteous Gemstones. So
I've never seen that movie.
it's not a movie; it's a series. It's on HBO Max. It's about a preacher, a mega preacher family.
Okay, no wonder I haven't.
It's got John Goodman in it.
Oh wow!
Man, what is Adam Devine? That's the other guy's name.
Okay, I know Adam Devine from Pitch Perfect. Yep. Yeah, right on. Have to check that out. Yeah, he's a great actor. Anything I've seen him in, I always like him. He's always that kind of fun character, but does a really good job in that kind of fun character most of the time. At least the ones I've seen him in, he's kind of the funny guy. And even in this one, he was the funny guy, even though he could kick some butt and stuff. But by the way, that was a fun scene with him in it. That one of my favorite scenes is that end scene with him in it and the crane. And just how the whole crane scene and they're fighting the alien, that whole thing, I really like all that and how it's all pieced together. And I think it's a good action sequence. One of the better ones in this film.
Yeah, this one was had action set pieces that were really interesting. The android fight both times was pretty good.
In that big kind of open arena type situation. That was really cool.
The choreography was pretty neat. I liked it.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you on that. This movie has a lot of highlights like this. Whether someone out there likes it or not, overall, I do like this movie, and I like it because of these things. Mm-hmm. But I know we're not the ones, necessarily. There's a lot of people out there I know that kind of don't feel that way, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know why they don't like it, but yeah,
I would agree.
I don't think any of us on this. The problem is we don't have that person on the podcast to really push back.
Do I wish sometimes that there was sometimes more in this movie? I don't know. For some reason, okay, I guess that can be me a little bit, even though I do like this movie and I do like it better from Prometheus. I will totally agree with that and stuff. For some reason, there's something missing, and I don't know, something I feel like is missing from this movie, but I can't put my finger on it.
The only thing I've
something
ever
more that I wanted.
It's closure. It's more closure, I think.
Do you think so?
Maybe happier closure.
Well,
because there is closure. It's we know what happens to Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. We know what happened to her. There's closure there. We can guess what's going to happen to the Covenant ship. There's some closure there, but there's not really any happy closure.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's it, because that's when I walk away from this movie, that's what I feel. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like there's one more thing that I feel like I should have seen, or there should have been in this movie, and I can't name it. I can't tell you what it is. It's just that kind of feeling of maybe a little bit of dissatisfaction of something, but overall, it's I enjoy this movie and I like it, and I usually go back and watch it every once in a while.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what your rating is for it.
Do we want to move on to that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
I'll go first, I guess, since you just brought it up, Crit.
All right.
I give this movie a 6 out of 10. And it's because of exactly what I'm explaining right now. That I think the cinematography is great. I almost gave it a 7. I think it's a really well done movie in every way. It looks beautiful. It's very well acted. I love action scenes, but there's just the reason it took me down from like a 7 to a 6 is just that little small something I feel like is missing that I can't put my finger on. And I wish I could explain it better than that, but I can't. It's just a
That's
feeling.
fine. Yeah.
So 6 out of 10 chest bursters is what I gave it as a rating.
All right.
And what did you give it, Crip?
I give it a 7 out of 10. I think I like the horror ending. So the problem is with horror movies is shouldn't a horror movie end in a frightening way? Like,
Absolutely.
Isn't that like a more interesting approach to the genre than having the horror movie wrap up all of its themes? I think the problem is that we look at it as sci-fi, and because it's sci-fi, we want, we're kind of conditioned maybe by Star Wars or something like that to have happy endings. But I think, this is sci-fi horror. This shouldn't have a happy ending. If it would feel false to me for it to have a happy ending. So I really like that it does that. I think the only reason it's not like a higher rating for me is it's just not one I'm compelled to come back to. Like, it's got themes and it wants to talk about those themes, but it doesn't really get it's not in the dialogue between the characters, like really struggling with the themes, or the themes are only with the androids. It's not really with the rest of the actors and characters and stuff like that.
That's fair.
I mean, it's more in Prometheus because you have someone who cannot get pregnant and then suddenly she is. Like, there's at least some other characters outside of the android that have, that are touching on these themes. But the other people in this one don't really touch the themes. It's really only with the xenomorphs and the virus and and David, really. So that's the only reason why it's not as high.
No,
that's interesting. I totally get that.
I wouldn't watch this with my mom because she would never watch it.
No, she's not a horror person or an alien person.
Body horror. She would never sit down and watch this. Or she would leave like at the first sign of anything, like what happening.
Right.
So. And I'll be honest, I'm probably a little jaded, because this has got some definite body horror in it, but there's movies like Tusk that we watched that I don't think
Tusk is more grotesque than this. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, no, you're saying that you couldn't watch it okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's not about the grotesqueness.
No. It's not about. Yeah. Anyway. I just found it interesting that this was considered grotesque versus, like, say, a Tusk or something. Anyway,
I mean, Tusk was considered grotesque too.
Yeah, it was, and it's not, in my
exclusive.
opinion, more grotesque.
You think Tusk is more grotesque?
I do.
Interesting. I wonder if it's because it's happening to the main character. As opposed to all the body horror happening to side characters. And
he has to live with it, where it's not a short burst of horrible things and then they're dead.
Then you die. Yeah.
It's he gets to stick with it.
Interesting. So it's more of an existential grotesquerie.
I would say 100% yes to everything you guys just said.
I mean, I would say that the script for Tusk is more grotesque than Covenant, but that's just my take.
Ouch.
I have to agree with that too. I'm sorry, man.
Go to ratings or go to picks. Go to picks. We're done. Go to picks. Crapping on Tusk. No.
All right, those are the pick. That's me that has the picks.
Yep.
And the topic that we have this time is, John, tell me the exact topic name. I wrote it down weird, but
I think Unknown Stars is probably the topic name.
There you go. Unknown stars at the time of movies are kind of, semi-unknown, right?
Yeah.
So,
like Sigourney Weaver in Alien, that would have been a good one because she wasn't really well known when she took that. That would be a really good example of a film.
Yeah.
You can stop saying examples because I still got to pick.
I know.
Yeah. Come on.
That's why I'm just taking the pool away from you.
Don't
stop that. Filtering it until I get the exact movie I want.
All right, I'm gonna find somebody in AVP and just make you watch that.
Gosh!
Oh gosh! Don't do that! Don't kill us!
Keep it up.
Holy shit! You're gonna do like Requiem, aren't you, to us, and just totally wipe us out.
Oof.
That movie is
Oof.
rough. Okay,
All right.
it feels like a mini series or like a made-for-TV movie. Requiem does.
So what's your picks, Josh?
All right. So unknown actors. So here we go. Number 1, this movie feels like nails on a chalkboard. Number 2, this movie will make you scream in the night. Number 3, this movie will make you pull faces. So this movie is like nails on the chalkboard. This movie will make you scream in the night, and this movie will make you pull faces.
I like the
All right.
chalkboard one.
Yeah, because I think I know what 2 and 3 are, maybe. So
I'm really interested to know if you know. I have a feeling you might know what 1 is. But I'm
I
interested to know if you want to know what 2
I'm
is.
not sure what. Oh, I think I know what 1 is. Yeah. Yeah, because that would be a good one to pick because you definitely get a lot of unknown actors in it. Okay. I don't know. I'm leaning towards number 1 because I haven't seen it in forever. If I'm right.
Down with number 1.
Okay, we're picking number 1, Josh.
All right, number 1. All right, number 2 that you didn't pick was this movie will make you scream in the night. Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I had a feeling Halloween would be on here.
I'm okay with not picking that one.
Yeah, do you not like Halloween?
No, I'm not a Halloween fan.
Oh, that's all right. I watched Halloween Ends this weekend. It was not great. Okay.
So it continues the tradition. That's great.
I love the first one, but everything after that, it's kind of. All right, number 2. This movie will make you pull faces. The Mask with Cameron Diaz.
And
number 1,
as soon as I thought about it more, I was like, "Oh no." Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
and then this movie was like nails on a chalkboard. What do you think it is?
Oh, I have no idea.
I thought it.
Huh?
I can't remember which one it is, but I thought it was like Nightmare on Elm Street or one of those.
It is A Nightmare on Elm Street with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And almost the entire cast is unknown at that moment.
Okay.
So I thought that would be a good one to keep with the theme of kind of a horror theme because we're recording this in the month of October, and also this is one of those movies that just has a lot of really good ones, and he is a really good, really well known actor still. That was his first movie he was ever in.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that scene was in 1 or 2, but yeah, it's in 2.
So the first one, in my opinion, has some of the more interesting themes of all the nightmares as well. This one and the third one, it's a little bit more of a serious take. But
don't give it away. You still got to talk about it later.
No. Yep. So all right. So I'm excited to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought the nails on a chalkboard would immediately give it away, but
I mean,
it made John think a little bit. Kind of did.
Well, yeah.
Anyways,
I'm not a big fan of the slasher horror. I don't watch any of those, so I've never seen A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Oh, this
we'll
would this would be really interesting. Yeah, because this is one of my favorite ones. Because I really like the first one and third one, but that's it. So great. Well, that's not true. Anyway, we'll talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones I'd like to. But anyways, all right, guys, this was a good podcast. I really like that you picked Covenant. It made me get to see it again. I hadn't seen it in a while, even though I own it. So, and next week, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I'm excited to watch it again. I haven't seen it for a while. I'm excited to hear your opinions on this classic movie that kind of helped start the slasher genre, kind of. More Halloween did than anything, but anyways. All right. And then everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel. Please click the like button if you like what you heard here. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.